Okay, welcome. There we go. Welcome to Speak on It, where four women, four journeys, one mission: love, live, lead on purpose. I'm Jakima. I am all things great. I don't want to say what I am beyond that because today, as always, I'm just here. I'm going to start with Kamisha. Want to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Kamisha and I'm just looking for a great conversation today.
Rolling to you, E.
Hey everybody, I'm Erica and I'm happy to be here.
Hey
And
guys, I'm Latoy. As well, I'm happy to be here to have real conversations. And get some stuff off my chest.
sounds good. Okay, ladies. So today we about to get in there. We about to talk about what we learned from watching our mothers love. A big topic of conversation is always women and how we love and how we, whether we are open to love or not open to love. One topic I was discussing with someone this week was this: women and have masculine energy. So this is a topic I'm looking forward to engaging in. And so I'm going
Mm.
to start us off. It's right. That's how I thought about that too when I heard it. So I'm going to start us off. Our prompt for today is: how did your mother's love or absence of love shape the way you show up in relationships today? So we're just going to jump in there. Who want to take it? Cami?
Okay, so um I lived with my mom until I was like 8 years old, right? And so I would say like it's more of an absence of love with my mother, but I had my grandmother's love. So like with my mother, it was more like trying to find healthy relationships, trying to learn how to trust somebody. And then when I became a mother, becoming more intentional. So I knew healthy relationships because of my grandmother, but that was my grandma. Like my mom, I felt like I've always searched for her love and I've always searched for her acceptance. That makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Who want to take it next?
I'll go next. I will say my mom's love, or in watching her, helped shape me in a number of ways. I will say good and challenging. Because like when you talked about, I forget what you mentioned in the beginning of the call, but women being like dominant and things of that nature. I think we can go down a whole rabbit hole of why that is. But anyway, that is part of what I saw, like my mom taking the lead when she had to, holding things down and everything. And of course, that helped me to be able to withstand things that happen in adulthood, and in relationships. Um, and in my opinion, that's a good thing and a bad thing now that I'm a little older. But my mother definitely taught me how to love. She taught me what to like look out for. So, yeah, it's a good balance there, I would say, for me as far as like my relationship with my mom.
Good.
Um, Mine is a little complex. So my mother's love, and it's gonna sound so crazy. My mother's love taught me not to trust people. I'm like, but my aunt adopted me, and her love taught me patience, grace, um, and how to, like, I guess, stay strong. And I was surrounded by other women like Erica Mom, which is my older cousin. Um, they showed it taught me to be like independent. It taught me to stay strong in like difficult situations. But my mom, even when she got out of prison in 2006, and she never was a mother, I guess. I'm not gonna say she, because this sounds so bad. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to explain it the best way I can. Like, she tried to love on me from prison, but that's like impossible. Like, you can't parent from prison. But even when she came home, I still didn't get the love that I thought I was gonna get when she got home. I'm like, because one of my goals was when she get out, oh, I'm gonna take care of my mom and we're gonna build this great relationship. And that just didn't happen. I learned a lot of things that I hated about my mom, like she's selfish. But even as a kid, her doing what she did, and I give her grace because she's diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. But even with what she did or decided to do, she only thought about herself. She didn't think about her kids. So I got my love from other women that wasn't my mother growing up. But yeah, and how it shaped me in relationships, again, taught me not to trust people. It's so hard for me to let people in, and to let my guards down with people. But on the other hand, I got the love I needed from other family members, which was like, okay, maybe I can let my guard down. But then sometimes I always go back and wind up regretting it sometimes. But I need to learn how to let go of a lot of things. And yeah, that's how it shaped me in like my relationships today. But yeah, I'm getting it together. I'm still learning and growing.
Always. So for me, I'm gonna say love, my mom love shaped me in a number of ways, and I'm gonna talk about a couple of things for me. So my mom's love shaped me in a lot of ways. Like my mother was the breadwinner in my family. My mom and my dad are still married to this day. They were married pretty much my whole life. So I did grow up in a two-family household, and I'm bringing that up because that was very important to my mother, who grew up without her father. So she wanted to make sure we grew up with ours. And so I'm going to start with in a relationship, her love and what it showed me for relationships in terms of men and women. Um, my mother showed me to love unconditionally, whether it's her kids or her husband. She told me how to love unconditionally. And I think that is a good thing, generally speaking. That said, I think she loved my father more than she should have. I think she loved him more than she loved herself. And I think that impacted me in a lot of ways negatively. Um, so I'll say that. But my mother was the breadwinner. She had 6 kids with my father, and she carried the whole household. That means 8 people. She carried it all by herself. My father was an alcoholic and a womanizer who went out and slept with whoever he felt like sleeping with and was making as many babies as he possibly could, while my mother was carrying his household, and she loved him through it all. So that's that. And in terms of me as a mom, what my mother taught me was like, and I'm just now coming to this realization, I'm about to say it, is that the only person in this world that's gonna have your kids is you. Nobody's really gonna have your kids once you have them, not even a father. And that is really how I operate in this world. And I'm very stingy with my kids. Like, both of my kids' fathers are deceased, so I didn't have to do the co-parenting thing. And now when I try to get into relationships, I am very protective of my kids over here because it's like I don't know what your interaction is going to be with my kids, and they mine. So I give them everything, I protect them with everything, and I love them wholly and unconditionally. So that is how my mother impacted me in both ways. That said, my mother was not, our family wasn't really, we didn't we didn't say love, like we love you. We showed it. So we were very action oriented. And so I had to learn how to be, what is it called? Emotionally connected or outwardly emotional with people. That is not something that comes to me naturally because it's not something I was shown. Like holding hands and giving hugs and telling people I love you. That is something that I had to learn. And my kids are very much, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I really don't know where they got it from. Maybe I taught them without realizing it, but that is not something we did in our family. So that is how my mother impacted me in that way. So you guys have given me something to think about and a question I want to ask you. So when you think about your mother's love, how would you describe it in one word?
Hmm.
Mine's complicated.
Okay, why that word, Toy?
Because you can love on somebody, but if they don't know love themselves, it's like they don't know how to give it back, or either they try to show you in a way that they know how and you just don't understand it. I actually like talked to my mom about like how she grew up and stuff, and it was no love in her house growing up. Like her mom was an alcoholic, her father was absent, still in the picture, but he was a Rolling Stone. Um, but yeah, I'm like I feel like that's why our relationship is partly like how it is too, whatever, because she don't know how to give love. And I'm like, when I was trying to love on her when she came home, it's like it wasn't received or reciprocated because it was foreign to her. So now it's just complicated because I love her. She's my mom. But I know I'll never receive that type of love in return.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Kamisha, what about you? What's one word that'll
I'm
describe your love?
like, I don't have one word that just comes to my mind. The first word I thought was tough. Kind of going back to what Toy was saying, like my mom has always told me, especially once her mother passed, that she never knew how to be a mother. So she also didn't know how to love her children. So my mom had me at 19, so I can understand, well, sorry, 18, so I can understand why it would be tough. Um, like I knew she loved me, but the way that she showed it was very tough. Like almost her exterior was hard. Like now that I'm an adult, I know that she loves me and that she loved me. But when I was a kid, I don't want to say it was cold, but it was definitely tough. So maybe that'd be the word I would go with.
Okay. Tough. So it's tough for you, Kamisha. It's complicated for Toy. What you got, E?
For me, I'm going to say unconditional. Um, I know my mom is going to be there like through thick and thin. I know she going to have my back, right or wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to hear about it. Um, but that's the first word that come to mind for me, for my mom. But one thing I want to touch on, because I kind of hear like similar themes, like prior to us being born, it seems like, in my opinion, at least on this call, Black generational households were very similar, where there was not a lot of um, like people were not being told "I love you" or like hugging in the house. Um, I didn't get that a lot from my mom either. She said she did when I was younger. I don't remember, but even in my family to this day, like when we come together, like we don't hug, we don't greet each other like, hey, hey, newer generation people like we do, right? But the older people, like if I go to my mother's house, I don't hug her. If I walk in my grandma's house, like we just don't embrace each other like that. But I know we love each other like through thick and thin. I know we gonna have each other's back. So I'm just hearing like similar themes around. I don't know. Thing
I hear it.
I was gonna say it could be a Black thing, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what other households look like.
I'm sure somewhere down in deep research there is some Black things to it. I'm going to share something that I learned, but first I'm going to say mine so I won't forget. So the word for me would be my word first was guarded, but when I sat and thought about it, listening to you ladies, I would say vulnerable. And I think vulnerable for me was because that's the word for my mother's love, is because I feel like that's the way her love came across, that she was vulnerable. And because she was so vulnerable with love, she was guarded when it came to her kids. Um, and vulnerable because I think my grandmother didn't. I don't think she was taught how to love. I think she was shown tough love. So when she had her kids, she didn't really know how to love them. And so I don't think my mother grew up learning how to love. And so it's something that she was always trying to find and get someone to love her. And I think that's why she kind of got with my father and chose someone that really wasn't good for her. And that's a whole other topic. But I think she was vulnerable and she put that vulnerability out there and got someone who took advantage of it. And I'm saying to me, that is how it affected me as a woman. Is vulnerability is one thing I am afraid of. I'm afraid of being vulnerable. And I think that's the reason that word came up to me, is because when I think about my mother's love, the one thing I try to fight against more than anything is being vulnerable with the wrong person. And that takes me back to my mother. That's what I learned from my mother more than anything, because people will take advantage of your weakness, and they do it all the time. But the thing that I learned, and it was something that really, really is going to stick with me for the rest of my life, and I just learned it this year, and I did research on my own to look it up, but did you guys know that when a daughter is born, she is born with all the eggs she will ever have in her lifetime? That means everything you experienced in your life, your kids were essentially experiencing it with you. So everything we went through, our kids went through it with us before they were even determined to be kids. Like, that is the deepest thing I've heard. So when we think about our mothers, and Erica, like you just said, you keep hearing these undertones of the same thing, of not being loved on, of not receiving like emotional love, like embracing and touching. We were in our mother's wombs the whole time they were growing up.
Yeah.
So everything they experience is with us without us knowing it. Like, you ever go through something and you like, why am I like that? Like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I like, I can't, for the life of me, I really can't let people get close to my kids like that. And I'm like, why am I like that? But when I found that out, it was like, wow, because all the things my mother experienced, and then in turn, all the things I experienced. And it scares me when I think about my kids, right? Like, not that, like, I went through a whole lot in my life, but I don't think it was so terrible, but it probably in fact was. Who knows how we impacted our kids without realizing we were impacting them. Like, that is deep to me, that when a daughter is born, she is born with all the eggs she's going to have in her lifetime. We don't produce new eggs. So that's something I learned that I want to share, because that was huge to me.
That is
So
huge.
that is huge. Yeah. So the next question I'm going to ask is, okay, we're going to change this to, how did your mother model love in relationships? And what did you learn from watching her?
Well,
I'm like, I didn't learn anything. I didn't listen.
Okay, so Toy, you can say, what did you unlearn?
Oh, what did I unlearn?
Yeah, let's do that for you.
I'm trying to put it into words. I unlearned to look, go to somebody. I'm like, I'm trying to put my words.
Okay, you can think.
I can say it in a different way, instead of like unlearning, but what I learned not to do, as far as like relationships. Was that the question? Repeat.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah.
Okay, what I learned not to do in relationships is not be selfish.
Okay.
I learned to be more open, be more vulnerable, even though I still have that guard. Like, it's not completely up. And I learned that, family is everything. Family is important. And it's just my duty to make sure, like, my kids, my husband, we're all like good at all times. I'm like, what my mother did, like, scarred me. I'm still scarred from it. And I always vowed that I never wanted to end up like her. Like, yeah, I just never wanted to end up like her. Like, I don't know what is deeply rooted inside of her that made her the way she is, but that's what I unlearned. Don't be like Tammy. That sounds so mean. Like, I love my mother, but I'm just like, she different.
That's your
It
truth
doesn't sound
too.
mean.
You said what?
I said that's your truth.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't sound mean. Like, we are here to talk about, things that aren't necessarily conventional. Like, let's walk in our truth. That's all we want to do, right? And that's your truth. So who's next? I can go. So, how did my mother's love model for me? I think my mother's love was that for in terms of relationships was that no matter what, you don't give up, right? You pick, like my mother literally taught me and my sister, because it's only two girls. She literally taught us we choose one man, and it is that one man for us for the rest of our life. That is what my mother taught me. That is what has been ingrained in me. My mother has been with one man her whole life, still to this day. That shit sounds miserable. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. That just doesn't sound appealing to me. But it's probably because of what I've seen, right? And what I've witnessed. So my mother is like, you choose one man, you have kids with this one man, you make sure your kids all have the same father. It's you and this man to death do you part. You are locked in, right? That is what my mother taught me, and that is what I mimicked my whole life. From the age of 11 to 19, I was with the same guy, right? And then 19, I decided to give up my virginity. And the next day, 5 of my friends told me they had already slept with him. Mind you, these same 5 friends had hyped me up to lose my virginity that night. Why y'all ain't tell me this one night prior? So that after having sex with him that day, the next day I left that friendship whole circle and I left him. The next guy I was with, I met him when I was 20. And that's the guy who I ended up having my daughter with. We ended up getting married, was moving really fast. He was very sweet, but very possessive. I mean, so possessive. Like he would write me these beautiful poems. And at the end of every poem, it was like, but if you ever cheat on me, I'll kill you. And I believed him wholeheartedly. Like one day I was in a shower with my daughter. When my daughter was in a walker and I was in a shower, and I heard the door slam and I didn't know what the door slam. So I came out and I was calling for him, like, Reggie, where are you? And I heard a car pulling out. So when I heard the car pulling out and I didn't see my daughter anymore, I pulled the shower curtain back and the whole thing caught on fire. This man had set the shower curtain on fire while I was in the shower.
Oh my God.
So but I was locked in. Like me and him we got into some physical fights. My mother was abused. So it was like, one of those things that I kind of expected in a relationship. And so I stayed with him. Moving forward, he ended up getting killed, and I ended up dating my best friend. Me and my best friend, we were best friends for 2 years before we decided to be together, 3 years actually. And then we dated for 8 years, and I stayed with this man, even though I knew he wasn't a good fit for me. He had no kids. He's the one I told y'all was telling me, like, who would you choose between me and your daughter? But I stayed with him because at this point, I feel like I was letting my mother down. I had 3 different men under my belt, and my mother was kind of making comments like, you a slut, so I was trying to make sure I didn't have to have any more men. And I stayed with this man way, way longer than I was supposed to. And it hurt me and my daughter in the long run. And so what I think my mother's relationships just show me, and since then, I kind of been not in a relationship, because what it showed me is I was trying to mimic what worked for my mother. That did not work for me. And it should not work for me because it wasn't my story and it didn't feel genuine to me. I am absolutely a one man type of woman. I only want to be with one person, but I don't like possessive men, and every man I've dated has been possessive over me, and I can't stand that. And I think it's because my father was possessive over my mother. So I shy away from possessive men, and I shy away from relationships and committing, because I'm a commitment phobe, because I believe that every man is going to be possessive. And that possessiveness scares me because look what I've experienced in my life. So that is the way my mother's love and her desire to love no matter what has affected me. I still feel like I am a ride or die female. I'm going to ride with you. But if you start doing some shit that rub me the wrong way, I can't ride with you. I am not that woman like that, making kids on me, cheating on me over and over and over and in my face, beating me every chance you get. Like that. One thing I'm not about in my adult life, full adult life, is putting your hands on anybody. Like, keep your fucking hands to yourself. I am not with that. But my mother, my mother was beat. Y'all, I cannot remember a time a day in my life my mother didn't get beat. Every single day of my life, my mother got beat for some reason. And that will stick with me forever. But that's how my mother's love in relationships has impacted me as a woman. Kamisha, you ready?
Okay, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. So, although I felt like my mom's love was tough to me, I feel like when she was in a relationship, she was very feminine, she was very committed, and she was very patient, right? So for me, it made me feel like what you fear, JD. Like I want to have my kids by one man. I want to marry one man, which is hence to why I'm still married right now and have all my kids by one person. Why I have my tubes tied. Like I knew that that was gonna be my path. Like I've known that since I was about 13 years old. I'm gonna have my kids by one person. I'm gonna marry one person, and that is it, and that is all. I don't want to be a step parent. Like my mom, she was just so for love, but at the same time, I felt like she felt like she needed a man. And so in my mind, I feel the same way. Like in order for me to be great, I have to be with somebody, right? So now after being single for like 2 years, now my brain is starting to shift. But watching my mom, it was like I don't have somebody, then like I'm missing something. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm supposed to be committed to somebody. I'm supposed to be riding for somebody. I'm supposed to be showing this man love. You know, like so for me now, now I don't feel that way, but for years I felt that way. You know, like if I don't have somebody, then I'm missing a piece in my life. You know what I mean? My mother did so much for a man that I was like, okay, I'm gonna be just like you when I grow up. Like I thought that's what you were supposed to be. I never seen her be masculine to a man ever. I never seen her be combative to a man. My mother wasn't a woman that like I don't know, like she was never ever like confrontational with a man ever either. So I'm not that way either. So like I think that that piece of her shaped me well, but at the same time, I guess it's like catch-22 to it too because now in some essence I feel like I'm supposed to be a certain way. And like I said, I am 19 years later, still married to the same person who is trash. But at the same time, it's like now being 41, now I'm like, okay, you know what? That really wasn't the right way. And, you know, I mean, I want to show my kids something different too. You know what I mean? Like my mother did the best that she could do, you know, like she watched her mother be married to the same man forever. And she watched her mom go through some real traumatic stuff. So my mother took that and internalized that. And again, I took what she showed me and I internalized that. So yeah.
Okay. What about you, E?
Well, I'm trying to figure out where to start. So I would say what I got from my mom, and I'm gonna add my grandmother, is to be like ride or die for your family. Because they're both big on that, and I'm big on that. Um, but at the same time, just like hearing from my mother, watching some of the things that she went through, and from my grandmother, just hearing about different things that she went through, even though both of those women are strong and big on their family and being that supportive woman, wife, etc., still making sure, and they tell me this now, still making sure that you have like something as a woman. Like what do you have um that is yours? Or if you are sharing it, fine. But not losing a sense of self. Um they're both able to reflect back on some of their past mistakes, and so they're still passing down wisdom to me at even in this day and age. So um yeah, I would say like the biggest thing is like being ride or die for family. But also another thing I want to point out, a theme that I'm hearing that is very similar. Um, it's like hearing like what your mom says, because it took for me to go to therapy to get out of some of the things that my mom may have wanted me to do, or things that she kind of put in my head and I wasn't there yet, or I wasn't doing that. For example, I wasn't married when I had my kids. I'm not married now. Um, But she would talk about that in the beginning when I first had my son, and that bothered me. But just trying to like unlearn, I don't have to do, everybody's life is not going to be the same walk. I appreciate you. I love you for, instilling these values and everything in me. But and we have a great understanding now. We're able to have respectful conversations, and you know, we can agree to disagree on some things. But yeah, I'm hearing. I think I kind of heard those things between a few of us. I also think it's very funny that knowing all of you on this phone call and hearing us talk about this, and I see like some of these things, I'm like, oh my gosh, your mom was like that. That's why you do that. That's why you love like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I think that's really. But Erica, you just brought up something that I want to kind of touch on, and I want to see where it goes for us. Like our mothers, and not just our mothers. I'm going to say like the women in your life, because I think
Hmm.
between you had more than your mother. You had women in your life, and we all have women in our life. But the women in your life, in terms of relationships, let's talk about the voices from the women in the relation in your life, and how they impact your relationships, or how they've impacted your relationships throughout your life, right? Because we all know when you go through something, you have your mother like, because there's no way I would have, there's no way, or you should let him, or you shouldn't. And sometimes the voices, I'm going to call them the voices, but the voices get a little too loud and so overbearing that we conform to what they want. And then other times, we aren't often able to push them out without help. Like Erica said, therapy. I know I'm in therapy. I'm a strong supporter of those who go to therapy, because it helps us kind of get some of these things out. But so I want to talk about how the women in your life have impacted the way you perceive relationships, the way you interact in your relationships. Um, and I'm going to start with me. I'm going to say that I kind of just told you guys, like, my mother was all in. And the women in my life, my mother and my sister in general, that's kind of pretty much who I had in my life, didn't make the best relationship choices. I, in turn, grew up and did not make the best relationship choices. But we were taught to be there. And once you create a family with somebody, you got to take care of that family unit, protect that family unit, be there for that family unit. That is kind of where they taught me. And in terms of relationships and my perception of them and how I matriculate through them in this world, I'm going to say that I had to get to a point where I stopped listening to them, because I had to start seeing them for who they was, right? Like, my mother, you were married, you still married. And that relationship was a whole heap of shit. Tomatoes, throw shit on it. Um,
I knew you was about to say tomato.
but she stayed, right? And to me, it's like, while she has lived through some things, I feel like your advice is damaged. And so I can take some of it, but I can't take a lot of it, because you don't get to live vicariously through me. You can tell me what mistakes you've made, and a lot of times she's not ready to do that. And that's the conversation I'm ready for. And then my sister didn't make the best decisions in her relationships, and she was dating a married man for a long time. And he ended up leaving his wife, and they got married. And so when she tried to give me advice, I kind of look at her like, now hold on, babe. So it's like, for me, they impacted the way I did, but what they taught me was independence, even in that matter. Like, you can't always rely on the people in your life. So for me, I learned very early, like, I can't listen to you either. I just have to get out here and learn on my own. And that is why I fall on my face frequently and often, because I think I'm a thinker, right? Most of y'all know that about me. And I think too much. And so because I learned that early, I was falling in my place with places where I shouldn't. So that's how it's impacted me. Toy, let's start with you.
Okay, so I didn't get relationship advice from any women growing up. Most of my relationship advice comes from talking to like my cousin or a friend or something like that, someone around my age group. Now, I will say that I paid attention to the relationships around me and, picked up on certain things that was happening and being observant to that has taught me that I don't want to be with nobody that's not going to accept me for who I am wholeheartedly. And it taught me that I ain't taking nobody's shit in a relationship. I was just like certain things that I've seen happen in relationships when I was small, growing up in adult relationships. I was just like, looking at certain things. I'm like, damn, she deserved better than that. And I was a kid thinking this. Like, why would you put up with that? But then I had to, go back to see how relationships was back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When the men worked, the men took care of the household. You got to listen to your man. You got to be submissive no matter what he doing. And I was just like, that ain't about to be me. I was like, I'll be single before I go through some shit that I don't want to go through. So that definitely taught me to stand 10 toes down about how I feel about relationships. Um, I'm like, that's basically the gist of it. Yeah. I'm like, just seeing examples was just like, yeah, I don't want that.
Okay.
I'll jump in. So back off what you saying, Toy. Like I verbally also didn't get relationship advice from my mother or my grandmother. I was raised by
Mhm.
my grandmother for a long time, and I seen how she was with my grandfather. But realistically, at 16, I really just wanted to be grown. So honestly, I wasn't looking for advice from anybody because all I knew was I was ready to be grown. It wasn't until like maybe I was 30 that really things start to make sense to me of who I am. And maybe the advice they really didn't give to me verbally, but I watched. So like my
Mhm.
grandmother was super submissive. And y'all know me, I'm super submissive. Like it's just who I am. But I watched my grandmother be so submissive to my grandfather, and it could have been like the era of time they came up in or whatever. That for me, I was like, this is how you're really supposed to be, right? Um, but honestly, like I didn't get advice from my mom on like, you should be like this with a man or, you should watch out for this. I didn't get that from my grandmother either. Like we just didn't talk about it. And so for me, I developed my own idea of what I wanted and what I didn't want on my own. But again, life kicked my ass, y'all, because remember I said I wanted to be grown at 16 and then I had my first kid at 18 and I was married by 22. So realistically, life is what really gave me like relationship advice because I went through it and it was like by the time I was 26 I had 4 kids and it was like okay. So I think for me I didn't get any relationship advice from nobody. I got it from life. And then the older I got, things started to make sense of like what they did and I was able to connect them to who I really am as a person. So yeah.
Kamisha, I'm gonna ask you this though. So you didn't get relationship advice growing up. Do you feel like you get relationship advice now from anybody?
I like from friends, but no, not from no family at all. Like none of my family, not my siblings, not a cousin, not an aunt, not like nobody in my family gives me relationship advice. And I don't know if it's because they think I got it all together, which I don't. But like from friends, yeah.
Okay. And what about you, E?
So for me, when my mother would talk, or yeah, I'm gonna say mostly my mom, because she will, anybody that knows her knows she will share her opinion even when it's not wanted. Uh, um, However, it got to a point where she could share things with me, but sometimes I would have to say, I just want you to listen. Like I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to listen. It also got to a point where sometimes I would say, um, I don't want to hear it. I just don't. So yeah, I in certain situations, and not just with my mother, sometimes I don't want to hear everybody else's opinion, and I don't want any outside noise. I think you said the voices. I call it outside noise. I don't want to hear it sometimes. I want to deal with things on my own. if I want to talk something through, or if I want to seek advice from any women in my life, then I'll hit them up. And I'm very mindful of who I talk to. I want to make sure their heart and their spirit is in the right place.
That's a good
So,
point. That's a really good point. I'm going to ask a question because I'm curious. So, did anybody talk to y'all about the birds and the bees? And first of all, why are they called the birds and the bees? Like a bird can never be with a bee. I never understood
Right.
that my whole life. Like, what the hell is that?
Now, I will say, now they talked about it in school. We used to have this class called like APL or something in junior high school, and they taught us about
mhm.
sex and diseases and stuff. But in the
Mhm.
family, hell no, they ain't talked to me about no sex.
Yeah,
So
nah.
mine is gonna be real weird, y'all, but whatever. So my aunt, me and my cousin are literally like 4 months apart. My aunt literally talked to us about the birds and the bees, but it was more or less about us going on ahead and doing it, like now and having babies. And at that point, we was like maybe 11 or 12. And I can remember me and my cousin looking at each other like, what? Like, but it kind of made it like it's okay to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because when she talked about it, it wasn't a like, don't do this. It was more or less like, here's what's gonna happen. Be prepared. Go and do it. Like it was not the don't do it that I gave my kids. So looking back, I'm like, man, she was weird as hell. But at that point, I was like, oh, okay.
So nobody talked to me about the birds and the bees. That said, I think my mother avoided it completely. Like there was no talking about that. It was like taboo. But I had 4 brothers, right? So Lord, the things that I seen, the things that I heard, the things that I witnessed, them boys messed me up. Like they messed me up. So they didn't talk to me about it, but I was the youngest, and so I was around all the time. And I knew, like when I was like 10, I knew what crabs was. I knew about gonorrhea. I knew about chlamydia. That's why I waited till I was 19 to lose my virginity, because it was like disgusting. Ew, don't touch me. I didn't like any of it. Nobody had me giving me any type of warning about what sex consists of, anything. And I kind of feel like people they failed me, honestly, like because we out here trying to figure it out ourselves, and I don't think that's the right way to figure out something as big as sex. Erica, did your mother had a birds and bees talk? Your mother sound like somebody who would have had that talk with you.
She probably did. That's what I was gonna say. I'm not even gonna say she didn't, because she probably did. I just don't remember. But like Toy said, we had health class. So if she didn't, we definitely learned about it in school. So, and it's so funny because now as a parent, I don't want to have that conversation with my kids. I don't. I think maybe with Zeke, definitely not with the middle one, but with the oldest, we kind of touched on it a little bit. But he had health class, so I was like, good, you know.
Right.
But he talks to me, he talks to me, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
With and to touch on what Erica said about not wanting to talk to the kids, it's crazy because I talk to my kids freely about it.
Me too.
I'm like, it's crazy because but I made sure that I built that type of relationship with them where they came to me.
See, that's good.
I'm like, I can't remember. I was like either 15 or 16 when I lost my virginity. So, I was there. But I always tell my kids, like, we need to have these honest conversations instead of hiding. And I always wanted them to feel comfortable, with coming with me, because I don't want them to go out in the street and try to get either information from somebody else or be irresponsible about it. So I'm like, we got to have these real conversations. Like, don't be afraid to come to me.
What's something you swore you would never do in your relationships because of what you watched, witnessed, or experienced growing up?
I could jump in easy on that. I would say fight.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
good. Okay.
I guess I'll piggyback off there and say fight too, but I'm not a fighter no ways like in that. So like I said earlier, I'm pretty submissive. So yeah, like I'll argue a little bit, but nah, I'll wave that white flag before I do anything else. So yeah.
See, and I watch my mother do the total opposite. Like she going up against whoever.
Like,
Sorry.
but
Anybody want
I'm like, for me, the thing, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna reference my past relationship. It was for me. It was fight because I wanted to kill my kid's dad, and that would have put me in a situation like my mama. Remember, I didn't want to be like my mother.
right?
Fight, but also I didn't want to become too submissive where I got ran over.
Mm.
I'm gonna say in my marriage now, I feel like in the past I had given too much grace, but I feel like, how can I explain this? I feel like God created my union, and I had to learn to get out of my own way when it came to my relationship and stop being so hard because you know in relationships to come compromises and grace and understanding. And I had to learn that if he's willing to make the changes, you know, that needs to be done for our relationship to move forward, then I should accept it. Only accept certain shit though. I'm not saying like no like mad disrespectful, he putting his hands on me type shit or whatever. But yeah, I never wanted to give too much grace, get ran over, and I never wanted to fight in my relationships. In my marriage, we almost got there and I had to back up and relax because I'm like, I don't want to go down this path because if we fight, this shit is over with. Like, period. So,
Yeah.
so I feel like we both grown together. But yeah, my last relationship, I'm like, I have vowed not to fight in that relationship, and that's what was happening. I mean, the motherfucker was abusive. Shit, I was gonna defend myself, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I wanted to kill that nigga.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm gonna say fight. It was fight for me too. As I told y'all, I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't see my mother get hit. I mean, every day, every day, every day, every day. In fact, the reason my mother walked away from my father, I think I was like 16, and he came home and was beating on her, and he had knocked her out. And I told her that day, "You go choose between me or him, but one of us can't stay."
Mhm.
We walked away from him that day when we were 16, but I think it was because I forced my mother to make a choice. So that was going to be hit for me, but you know, my relationship that I was in, I was absolutely a hitter because that's how I was taught to deal with my anger. Not, I wasn't a hitter. I was protecting myself, but I wasn't scared of taking a hit because I had witnessed my mother take hits. But what I learned in the long run was because my mother was very passive and very submissive and very quiet. My mother never raised her voice my entire life. And so what I learned is to not be voiceless. Like I'm going to speak on it. Like if I don't like it, I'm going to speak on it. If I do like it, I'm going to speak on it. If you don't like what I'm saying, I'm still going to keep talking anyway. And when people are like, why you talk so much? It's because I grew up in a household where my mother didn't. And so that's one of them things where I just, for me, that's one thing I said I will never do is be quiet in a relationship. Like I have to speak up and I have to speak out for me. This conversation went pretty quickly, ladies. We are almost at our hour mark. And so I want to, we're going to end, of course, with giving advice as we always do. But before we get to that, really quickly, I want us to answer this or tell me what comes to mind. One thing my mother never told me about love that I had to learn the hard way was finish that sentence.
One thing I had to, can you say it one more time? The question.
One thing my mother never taught me that I had to learn from experience about love was
Love is unconditional.
Okay.
Patience.
Patience.
I'm sorry, this is gonna sound cliche, but I don't have an answer because I felt like she tried to, even if I didn't listen, she tried to tell me everything she could.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
One thing my mother never taught me about love is that sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes love isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one
Facts.
thing my mother never taught me that I had to learn on my own. Okay, and now as we prepare to wrap up, what is one piece of advice you will offer to a younger woman? We can do that, or we can say, what's one bit of advice you want to take with you going into next week? Which one we want to do?
My advice, relationship advice, would be to never settle in a relationship. Find you somebody that's going to accept you wholeheartedly instead of trying to change you in your relationship, because that's how you lose yourself.
I guess my relationship advice would be don't be a doormat.
Mm-hmm.
Live in your truth. If something don't work, it's not the end of the world. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that there is so much life still to live. There's somebody for everybody, and keep pushing forward.
Might as well be get a therapist. It's okay to have all the women in the world, women, your village, people who you talk to and whatnot, but it's always helpful and impactful to have that professional to add to whatever it is people are telling you.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. So mine will be know thyself. I think oftentimes we don't know who we are enough. We don't know what we like, and we are going moving forward based on what society has told us, what other people, the outside noise has taught us about ourselves, like all of that. And we don't know who we are. And so I will say, and sometimes we don't know who we are until we get a relationship, but find out who you are and then be true to that person.